Thank you very much. Let me welcome you to MedZone African Motives, whereby I want us to look at Economics Grade 10, Term 1 revision. So we are going to make a revision for Term 1. So that is that. So this question paper was written in the Limpopo province. So it was written in the Limpopo province and it was written in 2025. So in 2025, and the marks that are awarded are 100 marks, and you have to take 1 and 30 minutes to write this paper. So we are going to use this question paper to prepare ourselves for the term 1 that you're going to write anytime soon. So that is that. So let us move on to instructions and information. Let us move on to instructions and information. So here we are on instructions and information. As it says, answer 3 questions as follows in your answer book. So we have 3 sections, section A, section B, and section C. So as we are going to do for now, section A and section B, and later on we are going to do section C, which is an essay questions. So we know very well that section A is compulsory. So it's a must attend question. We are to attend it. So section B, you are to answer one of the 2 questions, but as you are preparing for this coming term 1 test, we are going to answer both both of section B. So we are going to answer section B all of it. So we are going to answer question 2 and 3 of it. So that is that. So instruction number 2, it says number answers correctly according to the numbering system used in this question paper. So that is that. Make sure that your numbering is correct. Make sure that your numbering is correct. Instruction number 3, read the questions carefully and start each question on a new page. Instruction number 4, leave 2 lines between subsections of the questions. Instruction number 5, answer in full sentence and ensure that the format, content, and context of your response comply with the cognitive requirements of the questions. So instruction number 6, you are to use only blue or black ink. And instruction number 7, write neatly and legibly. Instruction number 8, answer only the required number of questions. Answers in excess of this number will not be marked. So that's that. So instruction number 9, non-programmable calculators may be used. So these are our instructions. So please go through the instructions. Don't ever ignore it. So make sure that you go through the instruction before you can attend to any questions. Instructions are very, very important. So now let us go straight to section A, question 1. So here we are on section A, question 1, which we know very well that is compulsory. So question 1, 1.1. 1.1 read as follows. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following question. Choose the correct and write only the letter A to D next to the question number. That is 1.1 to 1.15 in your answer book. For example, 1.1.6e. So that is that. So now let us start with our 1.1.1. It says goods that are directly used to satisfy people's needs and wants are. So we are given 4 options and we have to choose the best answer out of those given 4 options. As we can see, A is tertiary goods, B consumer goods, C capital goods, D intermediate goods. So you can see that the correct answer there is consumer goods. So the correct answer is B, consumer goods. So consumer goods, we know those are the goods bought by people for personal use to satisfy needs and wants. For example, buying bread or cell phone for your own use. That is that. That is what we say it's a consumer goods. So those are the goods for the goods bought by people for personal use. Hope you're together with people. So now let us move on to 1.12. 1.12. An open economy is an economy with, here we're talking about what? An open economy, not closed economy, but an open economy. So we're given four options, good people. A is government sector, B is household sector, C foreign sector, D business sector. And the correct answer is foreign sector, C. C is the correct answer. As we know that a foreign sector, that is the part of economy that deals with trade between a country and other countries. We are talking about imports as well as exports. For example, South Africa exporting a gold to China. So you see, that is an open economy. So now let us move on to 1.13. The lowest turning point of business cycle, the lowest turning point of business cycle is known as, so, and we are given these four options. We are given a draw, recession, depression, peak. So the correct answer is A, that is a draw. As we know that this is the lowest point of economic activity during the business cycle. So, for example, when many business close and unemployment is very high during recession, we call that a drop. So, hope you are together with people. Now, let us move on to 1.14. 1.14 read as follows. An indicator that changes before the economy changes is, we are given these four options: contradiction indicator, lagging indicator, coincident indicator, leading indicator. So the correct answer is D, leading indicator. We know that a leading indicator, that is an economic sign that predicts future economic activity. That is that. That is why the statement says an indicator that changes before the economy changes. That is a leading indicator. Hope you're to get on that. 1.15. Dash are the rights that every living person should have. We are given political rights, social rights, human rights, civil rights. So the correct answer is human rights, meaning C is a correct answer. Correct answer is human rights. These are the basic rights and freedoms that all people are entitled to. That is that. For example, the right to life, the right to education, that is that. So now let us move on to another question. Now we are on 1.2, matching question. We are now on matching question. Matching question 1.2. Choose a description from column B that matches item in column A. Write only A to G next to the question number 1.21 to 1.126 in the answer book. So we have column A as well as column B. So column A is what? The items. These are the items, while list column B are the description. So hope you're together on that. So now let us attend to it. 1.21. 1.21. It talks about peak. So we want to know the description that matches this item peak. So we want that. That is what we want, because we know very well that when you talk of peak with people, we are talking about the economic activities. Economic activities are at its highest points. This is called a peak in the business cycle. So you can see now the correct answer here is E. Economic activities are at its highest points. So the correct answer there is E. So E is correct answer for 1.21. 1.22, consumption. Consumption. So consumption is using up goods and services to satisfy human wants and needs. Using up goods and services to satisfy human needs and human wants and needs. So the F is correct answer. So we know that using up goods and services to satisfy human needs and wants, that is consumption. For example, buying and eating food. That is that. Now we come to double counting now. Double counting. Double counting. So we want to see the description that is going to best match this item, which is called double counting. So double counting is national figures are inflated by counting all market values, meaning to say our correct answer there is G. So our correct answer there is G. Sorry, is G. Our correct answer is G. As we know that um, national figures, what do you mean? Double counting. It's all about. It refers to what this refers to double counting. This is counting the same product more than once. That is why it's called what? Double counting. That is when you count the same product more than once. So, for example, counting both the value of flour and the value of bread made from it. So we call it what? A double counting. Hope you're together on that. So we're done with this. So now we come to economic goods. Economic goods. So economic goods, these are goods that have exchange value and can be bought. Goods that have exchange value and can be bought. So meaning B is our correct answer. So that is that. For example, you can talk of a car sold at a dealership. That's why saying goods that have exchange value and can be bought. So if you sell a car or a car that is sold at a dealership, that is economic goods. Hope you're together. Now we come to natural resources. Natural resources. So when you talk of natural resources, it's simple as you're going to talk about water, soil, minerals, fossil fuels. So correct answer there is C. So that is that. They are natural resources. Households. Now we are on households. So the households, these are group of people that live together and make economic decisions. So the correct answer there is A. The correct answer there is A. So that is that. This is a household. Uh, so now we are moving on to 1.3. Let us move on to 1.3. So our 1.3 is says give one term. Give one term for each of the following descriptions and write only the term. Write only the term next to the question number 1.31 to 1.35 in the answer book. So abbreviations and acronyms and examples will not be accepted. So that is that. So now let us start with 1.31. 1.31. It says a Latin word that means all other things remain the same. So we want a term that describes this. A Latin word that means all other things remain the same. So that is a ceteris paribus. So that is sorry, that is a ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus. So we know that this means that all other factors are going to remain the same. Yes, it says all other things remain what? The same. For example, if the price of bread increases, demand will decrease. So it means that, and everything else is staying what? The same. So that is a ceteris paribus. Now let us move on to 1.32. A statement involving a subjective value judgment. A statement involving a subjective value judgment. So that is a normative statement. That is normative statement. Normative statement. So that is that. A statement is based on opinion. Normative means that a statement is based on opinion or value judgment. For example, you can say the government should reduce taxes. That is a normative statement. It's based on opinion. That is why we are saying a statement involving subjective value judgment. So it talks about a statement that is based on opinions. Hope you're together. 1.33. Raw materials or natural resources are extracted and cultivated in this sector. So here we're talking about primary sector. We're talking about primary sector. We know when you're talking about primary sector, this is the sector of the economy that extracts the natural resources. For example, farming maize. So that is a primary sector. 1.34, the value of next best alternative that is given up. So here we are talking about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. This is what? Opportunity cost. That is that. Opportunity cost, that is the next best alternative that is given up when making what? When making HYs. So that is that. For example, if you spend money on clothes instead of shoes, the shoes are opportunity cost. That is simple as like that. So let us move on, grade 10s. Let us move on to question 2, section B. So here we are on question 2, section B, which says answer any one question from this section. But like I've said, we are going to attempt both of question 2 and 3. So we are on question 2. Question 2. We are to attend now the question 2. So question 2.1, answer the following questions. 2.11, give any 2 examples of public goods. Give any 2 examples of public goods. 2.12, why is gross domestic product, GDP, important? So let us go straight to the answers of this question. So here we are on question 2. Here are the answers where we are to answer 2 examples of public goods. So here are our public goods: education, health, roads, police service. So we know very well when you're talking about the education, that these are the services provided by government that people can use to gain knowledge and skills. That is that. For example, government or public schools where learners study for free or low cost. Then we have health, like we have said. We know when we talk of health, we're talking about medical services that are provided to improve or protect people's health. Can talk of public hospitals and clinics treating patients. But with roads, these are the transport infrastructure provided for everyone to use. Talk of public highways, streets used by cars, buses, and etc. So these are our public goods. So the other question was, why is domestic product important? You can see I'm talking about this. Why is domestic product important? GDP. So here are the answers on that. So the answers for domestic product. Why is it important? It measures the economic growth from one year to the next. Meaning to say, GDP shows whether a country is producing more goods or services compared to previous year. That is why we say it measures the economic growth from one year to the next. Hope you're together. Also, it is used to determine the standard of living in a country. Meaning to say, it determines the standard of living in a country by making sure that, like to say, higher GDP usually means people earn more and can afford better living conditions. That is that. That is that. For example, countries with high GDP often have better housing, healthcare, as well as education. So that's what it means. also used as indicators for economic activity within the country. So here we're talking about any indicator of economic what? Activity. So it simply says GDP shows how active business and industry are in producing goods and services. So if factories produce more products, it shows strong economic activity. Hope we are together on that. So now let us go to question 2.2. Here we are on 2.2. 2.2 says study the information below and answer the questions that follow. We have top jobs for economic measures. You can see here we have market research analyst, economic consultant, compensation and benefits manager, the actuary, credit analyst, financial analyst. So now we are to attend to questions 2.21. Name any career choices when doing economics. 2.21. Name any career choice when doing what? Economics. So there are so many career choices. We can talk of banks, planning, financing, and stuff. Credit analyst, consultant. So now let us go to our answers for that 2.21. Here we are. Name any career choices when doing economics. So we can see banking, planning, financing, and sector. So when you talk of banking, for example, when we're talking about banking, we're talking of bank teller or loan officer. Banking is about working in financial institutions, helping people manage money. We know that. But with planning, this is helping business or government plan budgets as well as projects. But financing now is managing and providing money for businesses or investments. Credit analyst, this is whereby we're saying it evaluates if people or business can repay loans. Consultant gives experts advice to improve business performance. A teacher, so a teacher educates learners about economics or business subjects. So that is that. So this is what? A career choice when doing what? Economics. So that is that. So now let us go to 2.22. 2.22, which science can be combined with economics? Which science can be combined with economics? We're talking about sciences combined with economics, and then we go straight to our answers. So here we are on our answers. Which science can be combined with economics? So we can talk of statistics. We know very well when we're talking about statistics, this helps analyze economic data and trends. We can talk of mathematics. This helps calculate profits, cost, and growth rates. That is that. For example, calculating inflation rate. That is mathematics. Accounting. This is all about records and manages financial information. For example, preparing company financial statements. So that is accounting. Business studies. Business studies. It teaches how business operate and are managed. How businesses are operate and are managed. So for example, learning marketing strategies. So these are the business studies. Commercial law. Commercial law, it deals with laws related to business. Information technology. Information technology. As well, that is when we're talking about what? The IT. That's when we're talking about the IT. So let us move on to 2.23. 2.23. Briefly describe the term career. Briefly describe the term career. So that is that. So now let us go straight to our answers. Here we are on career. Briefly describe the term career. So as it says, it is a professions, jobs, and position you hold during your working life. So it includes life experience, for example, education, training, paid work, unpaid work. That is that. So that is career. It's about a career is the jobs and work experiences a person has during their waking life. During their waking life. For example, someone studies medicine, becomes a doctor, and works in hospital for many years. That is the career that we are talking about. So hope you're together with people. So 2.23. 2.24, in fact, 2.24. What is the effect of not having a career? What is the effect of not having a career? So here we are, the effect of not having a career. So as it says, will be unable to get better jobs, job opportunities. So it means, we're talking about unable to get job opportunities. It means without skills or experience, it is harder to find good jobs. Also, it says a low level of income. A low level of your income. So lack of qualifications often leads to low paying jobs. That's what we're saying. Also, the effect of not having career is all about lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge also, that is that. So, meaning to say, without education or training, people may not get important work skills, not be able to get work, not be able to get work. So it means employers prefer skilled and trained workers. So that is that. Not able to perform well at work. So without proper training, job performances may be poor. So that is that. So now let us go to 2.25. 2.25. Why would people consider the interest and skills when choosing a career? Why should people consider interest and skills when choosing a career? So that is that. So here we are on 2.25. Why should people consider interest skills when choosing a career? That is very important. Then they said they know what they like the most. They know what they like the most. That is that. People perform better when doing. For example, someone who likes numbers choose accounting. So that is that. They know what they like the most. That is the reason why should people consider the interest and skills when choosing a career. So that is why I'm saying someone who likes numbers is going to choose accounting, choose mathematics. That is that. Also, they should know what they want to do for the rest of their life. Know what they want to do in life. So it means helps people set long-term career jobs. Helps people to set long-term career jobs. For example, wanting to become an engineer and studying science subjects. So that is that. They know their strengths and weaknesses. So meaning to say, helps choose a suitable career path. A good communication skills leading to teaching or law. So that is why you know your strength that you're very good when it comes to communicating. So you having communication skills that can lead you to go for teaching, or you can also choose what? Law. So that is your strength, that you're a good communicator. So that is that. Choose a career that complements your interest and your skills. So meaning to say, this is going to increase job satisfaction and success. That is that. People should be able to adapt easily to changes. So meaning to say, when people enjoy their career, they are more willing to learn new skills. So that is that. So now let us go to 2.3. Let us go to 2.3. So here we are on 2.3. 2.3 read as follows. Study the information below and answer the questions that follow. Study the information below and we are to answer the question. This is what we are to study before we can answer the question. So we can see this is a circular flow. This is a circular flow. So now we are to answer 2.31. 2.31. So 2.31 says, what does the block labeled B stand for? We're talking about this block. So this block stands for firms or business. This block stands for firms or business. This block stands for firm or business. So that is organizations that produce goods or services to sell and make profit. That is all about this block. For example, you can talk about a bakery producing and selling bread. That is a business that we're talking about. We'll be together on that. Also, 2.32. Which type of economy is illustrated by a circular flow above? We are talking about this circular flow. We are talking about this circular flow. So you can see that this circular flow is what you call a closed economy. This is what? A closed economy. This is a closed economy. This is a closed economy. That is an economy that does not trade with other countries. No imports, no exports. So that is that. So that is 2.32. Now we are to come to 2.33. 2.33. Briefly describe the term production. Briefly describe the term production. So let us go to answers. We still have answers here. For 2.3, like we've already talked about what firms or business for that block that was labeled B. And we also did what? Closed economy. But 2.33, it was all about to us to describe what the term production. So as we can see here, it says, it refers to a process where an entrepreneur combines all available resources and turns them into products. So that is that when you're saying the process of using resources to create goods or services. For example, using flour, sugar, and labor to bake cakes. That's what we mean when we're talking about what? A production. So now let us go to 2.34. 2.34. So here we are on 2.34. What will happen to the national income if imports increase? What will happen to national income if imports increase? So let's quickly go to our answers. So here are our answers. What will happen to the national income if imports increase? National income will decrease. Import expenditure is a leakage. So what it means is that national income will decrease, like we've said. Money is spent on foreign goods instead of local goods. That is where our national income is going to decrease. That is where our national income is going to decrease. For example, buying cars from another country instead of local manufacturers. This will lead to our national income a decline, a decreasing. So that is that. Also, they are going to what import expenditure is a linkage. So money leaves the country when people buy foreign goods. So that is that. So that is that. So now let us go to another question. 2.35. Now we are on 2.35. Differentiate between real flow as well as money flow. Differentiate between real flow and money flow. So let us quickly go to our answers. So here we are, where we are to differentiate between real flow as well as money flow. So let us start by real flow. Let us start by real flow. So as it says, real flow, the movement of goods, services, and factors of production amongst the participants. Meaning to say, this refers to the physical inflow, physical flow of resources and products in the economy. For example, workers providing labor to a factory. So that is a real flow. Also, it says households sell factors of production to the business enterprises. So meaning to say, households supply labor, land, and skills to firms. For example, a teacher working at a private college. So that is that. Now, business enterprises combine and transform these factors into goods and services. So it means firms use the resources to produce output. That is that. So now let us go to money flow. Let us go to money flow. So with money flow, it says the movement of money in the form of income and expenditure among the participants. That is a money flow. We are talking about this. We are talking about movement of money as income and expenditure. So this simple says this refers to the payments made in exchange for goods and services and resources. That is that. For example, salaries paid to workers. So that is a payment that we are making in exchange for goods or services. Business enterprises purchase the factors of production, and this is income of the households. So business pay households for factors of production. That is that. Firms pay wages, rent, and interest to households. So that is that. Households spend their income to purchase goods and services. This is in income of the business enterprise. So meaning to say income earned is used to buy products from businesses. So that is that. So now let us go to 2.4. Let us go to question 2.4. 2.4. Here we are on 2.4. Explain the exogenous reasons for business cycle. Explain the exogenous reasons for business cycle. So let's quickly go to the answers. Explain the exogenous reasons for business cycle. So that is that. So as it says, the exogenous reasons are reasons for business cycles that originate outside the market system. So meaning to say, we are talking about factors beyond the control of businesses or consumers. So, for example, when you're talking about the global financial crisis, that is beyond the control of business as well as consumers. So that is that when you're talking about the exogenous reasons. Also, it talks about changes in weather conditions affect the output of agricultural sector and tourism industry of an economy and the total level of economic activity. So here we are talking about changes in the economy. So meaning to say changes in the structure of industry affect employment and production. That is that. No, we're talking about changes in weather conditions. So what it means is that weather affects production. Sorry for that explanation. Weather affects production and tourism. So for example, we can talk about drought, reducing crop output. So it's all about what? The weather conditions. So also, when the economy has structural change, it affects production, employment, investment, government expenses, taxes, imports, as well as exports. So here we're talking about structural changes in the economy. So it means that changes in the structure of industry affect employment and production. That is that. Variations in the money supply also cause business cycle. So we need to say we're talking about changes in money supply influence spending and investment. Random shocks can cause business cycles. For example, that your war, sudden increase in the price of oil, natural disasters, and etc. So that is that. Also, uh, political actions such as when the government wants to win elections votes will adopt an expansionary policy, and after the election, the inflationary effects of this expansionary policy now begins. So that is that. So now let's quickly attend to question 2.5. 2.5 says differentiate between ejections and leakages and give two examples in each. So, and give two examples in each. So let us quickly attend to 2.5. So here we are on 2.5 answers. As it says, differentiate between ejections and leakages, and you have to give what two example each. So let us first start by linkages. Let us first start by linkages. So we are now starting with linkages. As it says, it's a withdrawal of money from circular flow, which reduces the quantity of money in flow. Outflow of money from circular flow. So that is that. So it means it reduces money available for spending. So that is that you can talk of, for example, household saving money. So that is that. So we're talking about savings as well as what taxes. So as you can see, when we talk of savings now, this is income not spent on goods and services. You see, income not spent on goods and services. For example, money deposited into a bank account. So those are the savings. That's when we talk about the keys. Taxes, we are talking about money paid to the government. We're talking of income tax. So that is that. Now coming to the import expenditure. So we are spending on foreign goods. So buying important, for example, buying imported electronics. So you see, so that is that. But coming to injections now, so we are talking about the money is added to the circular flow, which increases the money in the flow and inflow of money into the circular flow. So it increases economic activity. So that is that. Investment, we know very well talking about spending on capital goods. For example, a firm buying a new machinery. Government expenditure, government spending on goods and services. For example, building schools, hospitals. See, export expenditure, here that's when we talk about foreign spending on local goods. For example, exporting minerals to another country. So those are the injections. Those are what? Injections. So this is all about question 2. So now we are to go to question 3. Question 3. So now we are to attend to question 3. So here we are on our question 3. Here is our question 3. We are going to start with 3.1. Answer the following questions. As it says, name any two factors of production. Name any two factors of production. So now let us go to our answers. Here we are to answers for question 3. So here we have what? Natural resources, technology, labor, capital, as well as entrepreneur as our vectors of production. You know very well when we talk of natural resources, we are talking about resources provided by nature. Talk of land for farming, that is that. But with technology, tools and machines used in production. You talk of computers in offices, that is technology. But with labor, we're talking about human effort used in production. But with capital, that is a man-made goods used to produce other goods. Entrepreneur now, with entrepreneur, we know we're talking about a person who organizes production and takes risk. We're talking of business owner. So we'll be able to get on that. So let us go to 3.12. 3.12. Why do people have to make choices? Why do people have to make choices? That is the question. So you come to our answers. So because people have unlimited needs and wants with limited resources. So here we're talking about why people have to make choices, unlimited needs and wants with limited resources. So it simply says resources are scarce. So choices are necessary. So that is that. So now let us come to 3.2. 3.2 as follows. Study the information below and answer the questions that follow. Here we are talking about consumption expenditure. That is 3.2. 3.2. So as you can see, now we are given this information where we have item as well as amounts. As you can see, we have items where we are talking about consumption expenditure by households, government expenditure, gross capital information, gross domestic expenditure, exports on goods and services, imports on goods, and there are also amounts that are given for those items. So the first question, it says, identify the method used to calculate gross domestic product in the above table. So if you go to our answers, we can see here the answers for that question 3.21. That is expenditure. That is what? Expenditure method. Expenditure method or gross domestic product. So this expenditure method calculates GDP by adding total spending in the economy. So that is that. They calculate gross domestic product by adding total spending in the economy. Hope you're together. So 3.22, name another method that can be used to calculate gross domestic product at the market prices, except the one identified above. So now we are to name another method. So we are to name another method. So as we can see, another method can be either production method or income or gross domestic product. That's when you do investment. So production method, a production method adds value of goods and services produced. For example, value added at each stage of what? Of production. But income method adds all incomes earned in production. For example, we can talk of wages plus rent plus profit. So that is that. So now let us go to 3.32. 3.2, 3.23. Explain the following components. Explain the following component. That is 3.23. We're talking about gross domestic expenditure. We're talking about gross domestic expenditure. So that is that. Equals to C plus G plus I. So that is that. Consumption plus government plus what? Investment. So now we are to explain that. 3.23. Here we are where we are to explain this component. So we are saying this is a gross domestic expenditure. Is equal to consumption expenditure by household plus government expenditure plus investment. So then you get your marks. So that is that. So what that means? So what it means is that we are talking about total spending within a country borders. That's when we are talking about household spending plus government spending plus investment. So that is that. So now let us attend to another question. So another question is, briefly describe the term gross domestic expenditure. Briefly explain the term gross domestic expenditure. So here are our answers for gross domestic expenditure. A gross domestic expenditure is indicated as the total value of spending originating within the borders of country. So that is why it's called gross domestic expenditure. That is the total value of spending originating within the borders of the country. So 3.25, calculate the gross domestic product at the market price and show all your calculations. So now you are to calculate what gross domestic product and at the market price, and then you show your calculation. So you can see we have our gross domestic expenditure, which is 360. So meaning to say we are going to see 360,000 plus 45,000, which is our exports on goods services. Then we subtract 65,000 because 65,000 is imports on goods and services. So then we will get the gross domestic product at the market price. So that is how we are to calculate it. We add our gross domestic expenditure to, we add it with what? Exports on goods and services. Then we subtract what? The imports of goods and services. So this is that. And on our answers, you can see here it is, and it will give us 340,000. To give us 340,000. So now we are to go to question 3.3. So here we are on 3.3. So this one we've said it will give us 340,000. So let us be on 3.3. Study the information below and answer the questions that follow. Study the information below and answer the questions that follow. So we have what? A typical business cycle. So we can see here we have a level of economic activity and also we have time. So this is a business cycle that we are to use to answer these questions that follow. So the first question says 3.31, identify the drought in the business cycle above. So you can see a drought is where? On A. This is a drought. This is a drought. So A is what? Our drought. As we know that when we talk of a drought, we're talking about the lowest point of economic activity. We're talking about the lowest point of economic activity, So that is that. So now it says, what is the line Y called in economics? What is a line Y? So we're talking about this Y. Line Y, what is it? So this line Y is called a trend. A trend line. It's what? A trend line. So when you talk of a trend line, the trend line shows long-term growth of the economy. Talking of this line, it shows what? A long-term growth of the economy. So that is that. Now 3.33, briefly describe the term business cycle. So we are to describe what? The business cycle. So business cycle is what a repeated rise and fall of economic activity. We can say it's a repeated, repeated rise and fall of economic activity, of economic activity. So that's that. So we are saying it's what a business cycle. So the other question says, briefly, it says, explain the term recovery phase, the typical business cycle recovery phase, where we're going to talk about that the production increases, interest rates fall, inflation decreases, exports increases. So let's quickly go to the answers. 3.3, as we have said, when we were asked to identify drought in a business cycle, remember we've said it's A. And for line Y, we have said it's a trend line. We've already talked about that trend line. So the other one was saying, briefly describe the term business cycle. As said, is a business cycle is a consecutive period of increasing and decreasing of economic activities. We already explained that. Now we are to, sorry. So now we are to describe what explain the recovery phase of typical business cycle. So as you can see, it says manufacturing production increases there. Production increases. So we need to say business start producing more. We are saying business start producing more. That is that. Business start producing more. So that is that. Interest rates fall further, meaning to say borrowing becomes cheaper. Borrowing becomes cheaper. Borrowing becomes cheaper. So we're talking of low rates. So that is whereby the loan rates are very low. Inflation decreases. So when the inflation decreases, this price rise more slowly. Price rises more slowly. Also, rent appreciates and exports grow. So meaning to say the exports increase. So more goods sold abroad. So that is that. So now let us go to 3.35. 3.35. So here we are on our 3.35. What can the government do to smooth out severe decrease in the business cycle? So we are saying, what can government do to smooth out the severe decrease in the business cycle? So let's quickly go to our answers. So here we are on our answers. What can the government do to smooth out the severe decrease in the business cycle? So that is where we are. As it says, government should decrease what? Tax. Government should decrease tax. Also decrease the interest rates, allow the exchange rate to appreciate. Government should implement job creation initiatives like public work programs and then as well as job subsidies. Provide training and education programs to upskill what the workers. So those are the answers for 3.35. So now let us move on to another question. 3.4. 3.4. 3.4, discuss the recession phase of business cycle. Discuss the recession phase of business cycle. And let's quickly go to answers for that question. Here we are on 3.4. Discuss the recession phase of business cycle. So business start to prepare for bad times by trying to repay larger part of their loans. So what it means is that firms reduce what? Debt by making sure that they cut what? The expenses. They selectively lay off workers, meaning to say unemployment rises. Unemployment rises. So jobs are going to be lost. Spending by households and profits business starts to decrease. Spending by households and profits of business now start to decrease. So it means spending decreases now because of what? Recession. Spending decreases. Lower consumer demand now. So this is going to, for example, now reduce shopping. Now they are no longer going to buy. Inflation is high and the central bank reduces the quantity of money and credit in the economy and increases interest rates. So, meaning to say the interest rates are going to increase. Central bank controls what? Inflation now. So that is that. Also, the central bank applies a strict monetary policy. Households find it difficult to buy goods on credit and to pay bonds, and bank insists that business enterprise repay the loans that were granted during the boom. So spending on durable consumer goods and capital equipment is greatly going to be reduced and unemployment is going to increase. So some business now start to show losses. So that is that. Now we are to go to 3.5. We are to go to 3.5. 3.4 for sure. 3.5. So it's just a mistake where here it was supposed to be 3.5. Where we are to differentiate between microeconomics and macro as well as microeconomics. So that is that. So here we are on our answers on that. A difference between macro as well as microeconomics. Macro as well as microeconomics. As it says, macroeconomics focuses on the end results or aggregates of all repeated micro activities. Meaning to say, macroeconomics, it looks at the total outcome of all individual economic activities combined. But we about whole economy. So, for example, studying South Africa's total inflation rate for the year, you see, that is in macro. Also, it says economic as under macroeconomics. Economic changes in the overall economy are influenced by decisions of millions of individuals of business. So it means that the economy changes because many people and firms make daily buying, saving, producing, and investing decisions. So that is that. Also focuses on aggregate economic activities, meaning to say it studies big economic totals like gross domestic product, employment, inflation, as well as national income and total spending. So that is macroeconomics. Now coming to microeconomics now. Microeconomics. So now we are on microeconomics. Let's say it studies the behavior of individual decision making. Meaning to say, focuses on how individual consumers and business make choices. That is that. For example, a student choosing between buying airtime or buying lunch. So that is that. Also is known as a price theory. Price theory. So it explains how prices are formed using demand and supply. So that is that. For example, if there is a high demand for iPhones, the price increases. That is what we say is known as a price theory. Also, it uses the phrase, it uses this phrase, other things being equal or ceteris paribus, meaning to say it assumes all other factors stay the same while studying the effect of one change. So that is that. So this is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Please make sure that you are going to share with others. And please don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you very much.